Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Monday, January 2nd, 2023. Welcome to the program. Big show coming up for you tonight. We're back here at Floored Media in Rockville Center. Yes, the wonderful Floored Media. Nick Costa of Offside Tavern is going to join us, talk about the resurrection of Offside Tavern coming our way. Very excited about that. Had a chance to stop in there last night. And very exciting things going on there. Can't wait to talk to him. My name is Sean Cuthbert. With me tonight is Mr. Chris Botta. Chris, how are we doing? How are the holidays?
Everybody's doing great. Happy New Year to you and your family and all the fans out there.
Yes, Happy New Year. And folks, if you're wondering, any of you watching out there, if you're wondering why I'm wearing this ridiculously ugly, putrid hat on my head, the Rangers Ed podcast hat, it's because if you happen to listen to last week's show, last show from Lost Farmer Brewing Company, we made a little wager with the good folks at the Rangers Ed podcast, and that was the loser would wear the hat of the opposing podcast if your team lost. And well, the Islanders not only lost, but a weird prediction from Coach Ed, right on the money, 5-3. He even got the score right.
Amazing.
5-3. So here I am wearing this disgusting hat. I can't wait to throw it in the trash after the show is over. But a bet's a bet. You got to honor it, and here we are. So let's get the show going. Want to remind everybody that we are proud to be presented by Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, 217 Carlton Avenue in East Islip, and of course, UBS Arena at Belmont. Also proud to be sponsored by Lost Farmer Brewing Company, located at 63A 2nd Street in Mineola. And of course, brand new sponsor, Main Street Board Game Cafe, located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. So with that out of the way, Chris, since our last show, the Islanders were riding a 3-game winning streak, and they rode that all the way into a very disappointing loss last night in Seattle. So why don't we start there, touch a little bit on the fact that they had 2 big 5-1 wins against Florida and Pittsburgh. They have a bit of a commanding win against Columbus, not so much on the scoreboard, but maybe on the ice, 2-1 victory there. And then last night, a very uninspired game against Seattle. What'd you see out there?
I try not to, and I think this is the case. I always read Kevin at The Athletic. Like he wrote a story off of last night's game in Seattle about Coach Lambert. I try to be mindful of the fact, Sean, that when we do these shows, to not just have the last game be the overriding impression.
Sure.
Right, to be fair.
Yep.
But on the other hand,
yeah,
because they continue on the road for at least 3 more this week, including one tomorrow night in Vancouver, I very much feel like that Seattle game is important. That's not to write off the games. Each one was interesting. Florida, they seem to be in trouble. But let's not lose sight of the fact that Florida isn't that far behind the Islanders.
Right.
Columbus, listen. It's a nice scrimmage. Everybody had a great time at UBS. They did what they had to do. They won. The Pittsburgh game is fascinating to me because of the travel element. The fact that Pittsburgh, like all teams were supposed to, only traveled the day of the game. Toronto flew up the night before. I don't know if you heard about this. Toronto Maple Leafs illegally flew up the night before to St. Louis, won the game, and were fined $100,000. There's not a team in the league, including the Islanders and Lou Lamoriello, who would not gladly have paid that fine, $100,000, if they could have gone there the night before. So maybe that's the most Toronto could be fun. That's okay. As we say, that's another segment.
Okay.
But when I talk about concerns for this team, and there were a lot of them coming off of last night, I am reminded that, thanks to the statisticians out there, since December 6th, the Islanders are 5-4-2. Now, I know we could probably back that up 2 more weeks and the record would look better.
Yep.
But in the last month or so, last 4 weeks or so, only the Flyers, Blue Jackets, and the Devils, who stumbled badly, have a worse record in the Metropolitan Division. So there is a lot to talk about tonight, Sean.
Okay, well, let's key on that then.
So you tell me your reaction.
It was poor, Chris. No, last night was very uninspiring, and And that's what I'm trying to figure out with this team, because they string those 3 wins together. It looks like, hey, maybe they're finally finding that consistency that we've been looking for all season, right? Where they've rattled off a few wins and they have a bad stretch, and that's kind of what it's been. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster up and down. Now, granted, more wins than losses, but not enough, clearly, because now they're once again on the outside looking in a playoff spot, thanks to the Rangers winning. And you just look at this whole situation and wonder, what are we going to see now? We're going to hit the halfway mark at the end of this road trip. So who is this team going to be? It's just you're fine to have a couple losses here and there. It's going to happen, whether it's against the Kraken, whether it's against Arizona, whomever it may be. It's going to happen. But it just doesn't make sense to me after those great wins. All 3 of them were good. They could have won that game 5-1 against Columbus too. They outplayed them the whole night. And you see that, and then they come into this game against the Kraken, who are, of course, better this season. They're trying to knock on the playoffs themselves. But a very winnable game where they really could have, put some points together, especially when you see a team like the Devils finally coming back down to earth, and they're slowly slipping down the standings a little bit here. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're in a similar spot as the Islanders in a week or two from now. But with all that being said, it's just how and why do they come out to a game like this against the Kraken when they have a great opportunity to put a 4th win in a row here, a very winnable game tomorrow against Vancouver? And, they could have came out, and not to say that they still can come out of this trip, looking pretty good, but I just don't understand why they put efforts forth like this. I almost wondered if they partied too hard for New Year's going into that game.
So they flew up 2 days before the game. Sometimes teams will do this when they're going to far out west or coming back the other way, and there's a big time difference. So the Islanders prepared for this. They didn't arrive the day before the game, midday, which was normal. They did it 2 days before. So they put everything in place. Management put everything in place. The players probably, the leaders, the captains probably said, sure, we're not celebrating. If we're going to do New Year's, we'll do it on the road. So they put all those things in place. I thought Lane Lambert, especially on the question after the game last night about the power play, where he finally, after saying, hey, like I often say in the show, these things kind of come and go, and he looked irritated after the game, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And it really reared its head. It was really clear when he answered the question about the power play. And I think where he might be, and I'll tell you where I am right now with this team, is this is a show that we do it about once a week, and we try to analyze what they are, where they are, and an ongoing theme is we don't exactly know yet.
Right, yeah.
But what we have seen on the positive side is that, I don't remember which Adam Sandler movie it was where the guy says, oh no, we suck again, whatever.
Oh, yes, that was The Waterboy.
Waterboy, yeah.
Classic movie.
Yeah. So back in the day when I was with the Islanders, we would sometimes have these seasons, like I think it was Teddy Nolan's second season. The first season went okay, right? We make the playoffs. The second season didn't go so well. And I remember one of the equipment managers saying to me, oh no, we suck again. So I think going into this season with the same guys, with very few changes except for the head coach, but he just moved over one chair. The question was, is it possible that that this is a team on the downside? Is it possible that with the gang back together, they're going to be a contender again? What we've learned so far is, oh no, we do not suck again. This team does not suck, and that's good. I mean, seriously.
Sure,
right?
yes, that's positive.
What would suck would be sitting here right now with them being 10 games out of a playoff race, because it's rare that teams come back from that.
Correct.
Right? So they're 1. Pittsburgh lost today in the Winter Classic. Oh, it was in Boston.
Did you watch?
Let's have it in Fenway again. I went to the first one. They did it already. We could talk about that in a later segment on the show. Let's put it on the board. So we know they don't suck again, and that's cool. But now they have to start making their move. I've taught you can't just snap your fingers, and the critics, the fans, some of the strong ones will say the talent's just not there. I told you, Chris. I told you, Sean. I get that, but they every time it looks like maybe they will make their move, they haven't, and they're in the next 20 games now. We're going to start to run out of time. They're going to start to run out of time.
Right.
So that's why when you see a game like the one in Seattle, and you knew Seattle was going to come out strong because they sucked badly against Edmonton. So much so that the Islanders scouts and coaches were at that game because they had arrived at time for it. And they were probably...
Well, that didn't pay off.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is when Edmonton reeled off something like 3 goals in the first 2 minutes, they were probably like, oh boy, they're going to be ready for us.
Right.
So listen, guys. Okay, it's getting late, a little bit early here, as Yogi Berra kind of once said. They have to start making their move. They don't suck. That's cool. Are they a bona fide playoff team? Are they a contender? They're a contender. Right now, they don't look like a contender. Are they a bona fide playoff team? We still don't know that.
I mean, we both seem to think so. Whenever we talk about the playoffs, we both.
By the way, I'm sorry, but just bona fide, I just mean like they're locked to make it.
I
can't sit here right now.
No, absolutely not. Especially when they're literally not in a spot. Right. That's fair. But look, and you might be inclined to blame the injuries, right? But you see the wins that they get against Pittsburgh, and they do it with the same clientele, and it works out. So. And we're going to key on those guys after we interview Nick from Offside Tavern. We'll talk about the guys that came in for the guys that are hurt. But, if you can get a 5-1 win against Florida, you can get a 5-1 win against Pittsburgh with the Ratus and Fashings and Witherspoons of the world, then you should be able to get a win in Seattle against the Kraken. So I'm still trying to figure out what is it about this team that, just they can't get up for some of these games. And I thought maybe with last night's game, it was just, okay, this is one of their typical slow starts. They tied it late in the first. Okay, they'll take it over in this. They'll have their intermission. They'll take over in the second. They'll get a nice little win out of this, right? And that just never came. They never showed up. It just never happened. I mean, I forget what their final shots on goal total was, but I remember it was 12 through late into the game. So just an uninspired effort, and I'm really trying to figure out what it is about this team where that's coming from.
When it comes to the injuries, about the guys who aren't there, I know we're going to talk about the guys who have joined the lineup and have contributed. Of the guys who are not there, and I want to be respectful about this, but Pelech is the real loss, right? If we before this run of injuries happened, if we were to be fair and just say, here are the 6 or 7 guys we don't think, they can't lose for a long amount of time. Barzal would be on that list. Sorokin, Nelson would be on that list. Right. Pelech would certainly be on that list. Maybe even JG, for example. Or, we could then debate the other 2 or 3. Sure. As for the other guys, because they haven't been big contributors, including Palmieri, I just can't get that caught up in it. So a lot of teams have injuries. Exactly. So I'm not giving them a pass on that. I am for Pelech. I got sympathy. I get that's a big loss, and if he's gone for a long time, he is going to have to be replaced by better than what they have. But as for the other guys, it's quantity. They are good players. It's too bad in different cases. For example, with Holmstrom in terms of his development.
Right.
But it's Pelech and nobody else, in my opinion. In some cases, guys. Like Wallstrom, he wasn't always playing. Like Oliver Wallstrom, he wasn't always playing. Right. So so Pelech is the big one there.
Yeah, I think there might be a couple of goals against it may not have happened if he was in the lineup. And maybe that would have changed a couple of points on the standings.
No, they miss him. You see it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, good chat there, but we're going to have another great chat coming up with Nick from Offside Tavern. So, folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY and your favorite podcast providers. When we come back, Nick Costa from Offside Tavern will be joining us.
I don't want to hear it. It's over. I can't believe they fell short again.
Yeah, but they played so well. They made it to the semifinals 2 years in a row.
The semifinals aren't the cup. God damn it, I hate those Lightning.
They'll get another shot at it next year.
I don't even want to talk about it anymore, all right? They lost, okay? Let me just sit here and enjoy the one thing that makes me a little bit happy. This fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty, turkey-filled Blue Line combo. I eat 3 every day to help keep me strong.
Hey, Donnie, can I have one of those?
Coming right up. Talk about a blast from the Blue Line.
Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Our goal is to make you a hero.
Miss the days of mixtapes and arcades? Love the taste of a bold IPA or maybe an ice-cold lager? There's a place where all of those magical things come together. Lost Farmer Brewing Company. At 63A East 2nd Street in the heart of Mineola, Lost Farmer combines a love of the 80s and a passion for quality beer to create brews that can only be described as gnarly, radical, and totally tubular. The retro vibe of the tasting bar will amp up your nostalgia while the blend of both local and exotic ingredients amp up your taste buds. Beer not your thing? Crack open a can of cider or sip a Chardonnay on the extended patio. Order up from the snack menu. You can even bring your own. If you're more of a homebody, pick up a growler to go or order online at lostfarmerbrewing.com. And for all of Long Island's hockey fans, Lost Farmer created the delicious Stable Shaker American Lager to celebrate the newly built UBS Arena at Belmont Park. Whether you're at the stable for a hockey game, concert, or a comedy show, you can find Stable Shaker by can and draft around the arena. So raise a cup to the next cup with Lost Farmer Brewery, the future of Long Island craft beer.
Giving some time to our sponsors. Ready to talk more Isles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us on the line right now, good friend of the show, Mr. Nick Costa from Offside Tavern. Nick, pleasure to have you on. How you doing, bud?
Not gonna lie to you, I didn't know if this was just gonna be audio or there's video involved. I would have cleaned up a little better. Sorry about that.
I'm sure you look fine. I'm sure you look great. But the important thing is you're here, and Offside Tavern is going to be back. So let's start talking about that, man. How does it feel to be resurrecting the wonderful Offside Tavern?
It's great. It's pretty surreal. But at the end of the day, a lot of work went into it to bring the old girl back from the dead. I'm super excited for everybody to come check it out when we're finally open.
Yes, absolutely. We're very excited about it here, too. Had the pleasure of getting an invitation from yourself to head over there last night, and everything looks phenomenal. I'm very, very excited for you guys. It looks great. What do you love about the new place? What are you excited to show everybody when you open up the new spot, and, any changes, anything that's new in there?
Well, first and foremost, this place is just much bigger. It is 3 huge rooms. It's over twice the size of the first Offside. And, the first Offside was my first time owning my own business, having, it be my place, built how I want it. And at the end of the day, I may or may not have made some mistakes along the way. It was, first time jitters. And that this time around, we've got all of those mistakes in the past. And, we're looking forward to, just providing Isles fans with a great place to experience the game. And that's kind of what last night was. Last night was a test run. We wanted to have like a dress rehearsal before we open up.
Yeah, no doubt, and it's beautiful in there. Again, very excited to see it open and running again. Obviously, had some great times there, doing some viewing parties and whatnot, and the place was packed out for some Big Islander playoff games and everything. Just a lot of fun, and just such a great central hub for New York Islander fans in Manhattan to gather and watch the game. And it's surreal. I think that the fact that you guys are coming back, because to me, with COVID happening, you see businesses closing left and right, and you guys obviously falling victim to it. You just don't expect to see a comeback, and the fact that we're going to have you guys back is just fantastic. And I know a lot of people are very excited about it, especially buddies of mine and stuff like that. But it's perfect that you mentioned that you had your first go around owning the business with the first locale. So is there anything particular that you did learn that you'd be willing to share from going from there to the new location, where you said, okay, we could have done this better. We could have, provided this for the visitors and for the fans coming in for the game. Is there anything that sticks out for you where you're like, okay, this is something I definitely want in the new location that we're going to have for the fans when they come in?
I mean, at the old place, we kind of had 2 Achilles heels that we really didn't have too much say about. One of which was our kitchen really wasn't where we wanted it to be, and a lot of that just had to do with how the building was designed and what we could have and what we couldn't have. And in this place, it's a full kitchen. It's a fully built out, huge, probably twice the size of our old kitchen.
Awesome.
And the other is just tech stuff, tech stuff that matters, audio, video, which is why we had that little gathering last night,
right?
Just to test it out. And sure enough, there were some hiccups. So that's what last night was for. So I had my AV guy in here today, which is why I couldn't be in the studio with you fine gentlemen. So he fixed them, and now it's loud and clear.
Yes, and fans will be happy to know that there are plenty of huge screen TVs in there for the game, so it's going to be great.
Excellent.
Chris, go ahead.
Hey, Nick, it's Chris Bada. How are you?
Good, Chris. Good to see you again.
Yeah, we talked when you opened at UBS when I was writing for the trade publication. Nice to say hello. Just one other thing I want to let you know. I was home for 10 straight days and nights with my family around the holidays. I would have paid good money to have an excuse to get the frick out of the house last night. So maybe think about also inviting me next time, okay?
Jeez, that's
or
all
did
my
just text me if Sean nicks that. It's possible that Sean nicks
Nick specifically said not to bring it.
Okay. My question is, do you go all in? I know this might sound obvious, but I'm just trying to think this through here because I wasn't there last night. Do you go all in on the Islanders, or is it Islanders lead and it's a hockey place? Like, what is your theme for this one? Is it the same as?
Oh no, it's all in on the Isles.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, if the Isles are off and there's another game on, sure, we'll put it on. We're not putting the sound on for it. It'll just be background noise until the next Islander game starts.
Oh, very cool. And you're near universities. Are there either things you could do or things that you started to do about, thinking about luring fans over? Because, there's certainly plenty of Islander fans around there.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, this is the neighborhood that we're in now. It's actually technically Alphabet City. Mm-hmm. And it's a much more, our last place was on 14th between 6th and 7th. And it was just a graveyard of things to do. There was nothing really around there. There was like the Salvation Army headquarters across the street from us and a YMCA, and that was about it. So this neighborhood, it's much more nightlife friendly. I've been here working on the place, and I would sometimes run across the street to the Deli at midnight, 1 a.m., and the streets are just mobbed. So it's a better location for us, just for survivability.
Wow, congratulations on it. I think it's awesome that you're doing it, and I know it's going to go great. Whatever we could do to help, or I personally could do to help, let me know, and I look forward to getting there.
Awesome. Great. Can't wait to see you in there.
So Nick, I know that there may be some things that are up in the air and whatnot, and not to
playoffs.
Sure, not to put any pressure on you before we move on to talking about the Islanders. But do you have a ballpark on maybe when Islander fans can get in there into Offside?
Where we're at right now, I mean, you saw the place last night. We're just about ready. There's a few things here and there that we knew we would have to get done, mm-hmm. but we're comfortable with where the place is. Sure, it may evolve and get better over time, but if I could open tonight, I'd be open tonight. Right now, the things that are holding us up are bureaucratic stuff, just stuff that we have to wait for this guy to come and do this so that the next guy can come and do that. And we're very far along the line, 2 emails and the place could be open.
Okay, so we're not too far away.
Not at all.
Love to hear it. All right, so let's talk about your favorite hockey team, who they're on the outside looking in the playoffs as we speak right now. Chris and I were just talking about it. What do you like about this team so far this season with Lane Lambert leading the charge here? What do you see from this team?
Which team are you talking about?
Oh, the New York Islanders.
Yeah, but which one? Because some nights they're one team, some nights they're another. Well, and you're absolutely right. Pelech is. It's you don't know what you have until they're gone. And yeah, I miss him. I love him. I want him in my life again.
Same.
Yeah. I feel we're all on the same page with that.
Sure.
But no, I like what I'm seeing from some of these unknown faces that were previously unknown and now are just rock stars.
Yeah.
Holmstrom, he can be scary. And Ratu, I mean, the move that he made to score that goal,
yes,
that's a year 5 guy kind of move,
right?
Like that takes confidence, and I'm excited to see them both develop and one day be on a line with Barzy.
Yeah, hopefully someday soon. And a question we get asked a lot here on the show is, what do the Islanders need to trade for? Who are they going to trade for to improve this team to make a a playoff run, a Stanley Cup run? So I'm going to toss that your way. If there was an improvement that this team could need, where do you see it?
You're throwing that on me, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean you're on the show, so I got to ask you something.
Yeah,
so
I guess.
If you would indulge us, please.
Okay, what do we need? I think saying we need a scorer is, that's a little redundant. It's okay. I feel like the nights that we're on fire, like the previous 3 games before last night's shenanigans, right. They played with a level of confidence, and whatever guy brings that confidence out of them. I don't know if it's a single guy who if it's a leadership thing. Not to say anything bad about the Islanders' leadership, but just when JG Pageau came to our team, and he just became this spark plug, and it was obviously contagious. And the team rallied and did better because he was there. Whoever that guy is, get 2 of them.
Okay. And maybe that guy's out there. You see some names floating around there, like Bo Horvat and stuff like that being out there.
Sure.
Maybe that's the guy they get. Now, you were just raving about Aatu Ratu. Now, is he a guy you want to hold on to? Like, you got to give to get in these trades. Is he somebody you're willing to give up, or you want to hold on to him and see how he develops as an Islander?
Oh, I want to hang on to him just because I want to name drinks after him. Mostly.
That's fair. And you know what? I love that you mentioned that. Do you have any? You don't have to reveal them now. But do you have any tricks up your sleeve for maybe some new drinks or new menu items?
I've got a few, and then I've got a few that I need to rename. That the cocktails were successful, but I don't think we can sell Josh Hotangs anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it would be frowned upon.
I suppose tater trots have seen their day in the sun too. I guess
they have.
And I wouldn't be opposed to keeping those around. Honestly,
I mean, he deserves.
I've been trying to make a lamb burger or something, but then it just sounds like it's made out of lamb. It's a whole thing. I don't know.
That's phenomenal. I think you should do that. I would eat a lamb burger, and I've never had lamb burger before, but I would do it if it was called the Lane Lamb Burger.
Lane Lamb Burger, yeah.
Love that. All right, Nick. Well, listen, I know you're a busy guy over there. You're doing great stuff. Once again, thanks for having us last night. It was great to be there. Great to see a lot of familiar faces and have a good time. I think the only thing that went wrong was the Islanders putting together a pretty crappy performance, but had a blast, and really looking forward to getting back in there again. And hope to talk to you soon, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Good luck, Nick.
You got it, bud. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, folks. That was the great Nick Costa of Offside Tavern. Home base in Manhattan is coming back. TBD, but it'll be soon.
I think, just listening to him, and I talked to him once before, really think about what he's doing. Even just sitting here, it's amazing. It's gutsy. It's putting your heart and your career, your life, this isn't, he's not digging around here.
No, he's not. He is not.
And, you could say that there's a lot of businesses out there that would be challenging, and he's doing something that's a passion project. He saw some success with it. He's now learned from it, and he's going to give it another go, post-pandemic-ish. Hopefully Islanders rebound as well.
Right.
And how the hell can you not root for that guy, right? And for that place and for else. I mean, I wish it was a little bit closer to where we live.
Sure,
but
it's just a train ride away.
That said, we will be there. I will be there.
No question about it. And no, I mean, he loves that place. He loves that place. He loves the team. And anytime I went in there, for even last night, but anytime I went in there for any of the events or the games that, I went to watch the games or be a part of or whatnot, he's always got a smile on his face. You can just see the joy that he has just hosting his people. Islander fans.
And I
they're
could
all
see
coming
even
to-
when you introduced them, you had a big smile on your face too. You could tell there's a lot of fun there. There's a bond there.
Yeah, no, Nick's a great guy. It was a pleasure meeting him back. I met him just after they opened. So I forget exactly how I got wind. It was probably Twitter, because that's where you learn everything these days. But I got wind of the fact that there was this Islander bar opening, and I was like, I got to get over there. I got to meet these people, because an Islander, that's ballsy too, opening an Islander bar in Manhattan, right? So I went over there, and I met him, and we had a good chat. And, ever since then, I've been going back, and we've done events together, and it's just been a pleasure going over there. So I'm just very excited and happy for him to get that going again.
Yeah, and also it's cool. It's very cool that kind of you have these brand names that are in UBS, right? Rosner, the Blue Line, and he's got his thing. But and that is really good. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But to have the real physical place where people are going to go to watch the games, and that's bigger.
It's great that the Islanders paid tribute. And that's another thing too. He was able to really make a dent in Islander country, right? To the point where the owners of the New York Islanders were like, "Hey, we want to put the name of your bar in our brand new arena." That's huge in itself. So it's just such a stamp that he's put on this fan base, and now he's coming back. It's great. So it's just it's great to see. I'm very happy for him, and I can't wait to get in there. So
absolutely, the Blue Line too, that they did it, and
all
the travel fan, the road fan group, and the Islanders and the owners and the staff did an incredible job with UBS with all those personal touches.
Now we just need the Hockey Night New York Shake Shack.
There you
go. We're good to go.
That'd be nice.
All right, so folks, want to thank you once again for tuning in to Hockey Night in New York at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. If you're hanging out with us live, don't forget to get your questions in for Questions Brewing later on in the show. And a thank you to listen on the podcast providers later on. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back.
New York Islanders fans, Sunday night is Hockey Night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York. The best night of the week for any Islanders fan.
And now, it's time for What's on Tap. Brought to you by RJ Daniels, American Bar and Grill.
Well, folks, the programming has lied to you. It is not time for What's on Tap. However, we are back from break, and Chris is going to do us a read right now.
What are we doing? And we're going to have a very special...
It says What's on Tap next.
Nah.
We're going to have a very special segment with our 3 predictions for the year.
We need a new sheet. This is a live show, folks.
And that segment happens tonight to be presented by our friends at the Main Street Board Game Cafe in Huntington Village on Long Island's North Shore. Games for sale and for open play, food and drink, beer and wine, fun and friends. Bring the magic of phones down, eyes up, tabletop board games to your family. Hey, listen, great place. We've all been there. A place you want to check out. They got all the games that you want to play, all the hottest new releases, strategic games. They got the Magic the Gathering games. I'm riffing a little bit here because I can't read Sean's handwriting. I should have brought my spot that I had last year for my podcast.
He said he could read it.
But nobody is a bigger fan of the Main Street Board Game Cafe in Huntington Village on Long Island's North Shore than me. Folks, please go. I'd love to do a show there someday. We got to get as many people down there as possible if they want us. Neil's doing so well there. But everybody is welcome. They do parties, corporate events located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Go to mainstreetboardgamecafe.com for more information. Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd, unplug your game.
That is Main ST Board Game Cafe.
I even joked about that last week that I kept on saying Main Street. Main ST Board Game Cafe.com. You even did write ST and underlined it.
There you go.
Main ST Board Game Cafe.com.
I'm glad you're able to read that part at least. That's important.
That part.
So let's do some predictions. It's a brand new year. It's 2023, so we decided we would do 3 predictions each For this year, for the New York Islanders, Chris, you want to take it away?
Well, I'd say let's save one of them that we agreed to is that we're going to say where we think how far they will go this year.
Okay.
And we'll save that for last.
Sure.
So we will start with one each of the other two varieties, and
Sounds
you go
good.
first, my friend.
The Islanders will make a big trade before the trade deadline.
A big trade.
Yeah, I consider it a big trade, and I'm going to name a name, and this doesn't necessarily mean this is who I think they should get, who I want them to get, but I just have this feeling, which means absolutely nothing.
I don't know about that.
But I think Bo Horvat is going to be a New York Islander before the trade deadline.
Okay, I like that. I'll skip to mine and say that I had something too but I did. I was softer than you.
Okay.
And that my prediction is that they will make one trade before this deadline. I wasn't. I'm not. And by the way, no, I'm not saying just some guy for a 6th-round pick who's
Gotcha, like a depth.
Yeah. But if somebody is going to be on the team, I wasn't so forward to say that. What I'll move now to my second one and give you this is a prediction of something they are not going to do. And that's whether it be in the Horvat trade or an equally big trade. I predict and I believe, and yes, you might say they can't, but they will not trade their 2023 first-round pick.
Okay.
I think even Mr. Lamoriello recognizes that this is a team that has not made a first-round pick since 2019.
Right.
Maybe for another day. I think Alexander Romanov is a good player. I don't know. I don't know if anybody would trade a top 15, in this case, I believe it's 13th overall pick on the draft floor for that player. He also can still develop, don't get me wrong. And it's about time they held on to it. I understand you could put in some conditions to protect yourself, so right.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of reasons, the biggest one being hockey, that's just something they can't do, and I believe they won't do.
Maybe he'll trade the 2024 first rounder.
All I'm protecting,
Okay.
all I'm predicting / protecting is this coming summers in 2023.
Okay. So my second prediction is Ilya Sorokin will win the Vezina Trophy.
Interesting. Now it's funny, right?
That?
3 weeks ago, I would have been like, we need you to come on here, and he continues to be good. It's funny how that losing streak. He had 2 bad games,
right?
2 suboptimal games, sub Sorokin games, but now it's become like the 6-game losing streak. Lambert stood up for him. I think it was even just last night. That was not about him. We didn't give him run
absolutely
support.
not. No.
So I love it. I will say that would tell me that I already know your prediction at the very least is that the Islanders are going to make the playoffs because you don't make the playoffs.
Correct.
He might not even get a nomination, and
Absolutely.
that wouldn't necessarily be fair,
right?
Because it's supposed to be the 3 best goalies.
I think he had a few votes last year.
In MLB, guys like the Mets guys win the Cy Young when the team isn't even a 500 team sometimes. So okay, I like it. I'm not as bullish on it because there's more hockey to be played. But in a way, you're right. Like if they're going to make the playoffs, which is my prediction as well, and I'll go so far as to say that I believe they're going to lose in the second round, which means they're going to win a round, which means they're going to most likely upset somebody on paper because I don't think they're going to be one of the top seeds. So that's a pretty good season. But I imagine we'll do a show in May, and we can recap it then. But they're going to need Sorokin to win the Vezina Trophy. So, but my prediction is the Islanders will lose in the second round. The positive slant on that is that they will make the playoffs and win an exciting, perhaps surprising to many people in the hockey world, first round. But that's as far as they will go.
So my prediction as far as that goes is very similar, with a couple more specifics, that they'll finish 3rd in the Metro, which means they'll open on the road, as you predicted as well. And just to toss a little fun in there, against the New York Rangers in 2nd place. They'll start an MSG for round 1, and they will win that series. And then lose to the Carolina Hurricanes in round 2. That's pretty much how I see it. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we're talking about this team in June, about a Stanley Cup celebration. and a lot can happen between now and then. But the way I see this team, I think, maybe there's going to be, even though they didn't make the playoffs last year, maybe a little hangover from a couple of long runs. They have an older team, some guys in their 30s. And it would be quite something. I would, if this team could get past the second round, especially with a team like the Carolina Hurricanes probably in their way.
And ever since you mentioned Carolina in your answer, and great prediction, by the way, love the specifics. You outclassed me in all of those.
Every day.
Both of that. Very specific. It's so funny with this season because I don't want to say I love Carolina. I enjoy watching Carolina play. I have a lot of respect for Brendan Moore and a lot of guys. They're getting Pacioretty for the second half. It appears earlier than they planned, earlier than they thought they were going to when they made that somewhat steal of a trade. But it's like sometimes you just wonder, or some like we're seeing with Jersey, who we knew would fall back, but they've really fallen back to the with this losing streak that they have, or a lot of losses coming up. Like Carolina is just rolling over everybody.
Yeah,
it's very, very rare, unless you're one of those elite teams like the Islanders of the '80s in Montreal, with the clear-cut talent edge. It's really rare to sustain that for 6 more months.
Right.
So, if you're a Carolina fan, you're hoping they come back to the back a little bit because it just doesn't work that way. It rarely has.
Right.
So, love the predictions though. Great stuff. Did we want to move on to the guys coming into the lineup?
The guys
or
coming
are we going
into
what's on tap?
Oh, right. You know what?
Because the what's on tap plug was played 11
we
minutes
got
ago.
It was, and that's okay. Ed's doing his best back
Sean,
there.
when you read this paper, I want a public apology.
I don't think that's going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I've known Sean long enough to know that.
Well, Ed's being a good sport because he's actually wearing the Rangers Ed podcast hat along with me, unlike the guy sitting next to me. But that's all right. But Ed, it's fine, man. It's not a big deal. But yeah, you know what? Why don't we'll save that for later if we have time for it. If not, maybe we can rap about it next week. But for now, let's go into what's on tap. You don't have to hit the button. We're good on that. Just take us to the segment, and we'll rattle them off. So, Chris, what's on tap? Tomorrow they go into Vancouver, Thursday in Edmonton, and then back-to-back they go to Calgary. So they're doing that, West Coast Canada swing here. Vancouver, one of the lesser teams right now in the league. Edmonton and Calgary fighting for playoff spots over there in the West. That'll be a little tougher. What do you see out of these games?
What's happened with this season, really pretty darn consistently, is that when we've looked at weeks like this, home or road or whatever, you would look at that Calgary game as the one game you would think they might lose. It's the night after they play in Edmonton.
Right.
And Calgary's good.
Right.
They're going to win. But they keep on winning those games.
No, you're right. Yeah.
So I don't know about that. Edmonton has a key injury. I'm not too sure how long they'll all be out, but they're starting to miss some guys too. Edmonton strikes me as the kind of team that a professional outfit like the Islanders can take their crowd out of the game in the first period. Vancouver, man, you don't know. Wasn't it last year like the Islanders were up 5-0 after the first period on them? Boudreaux was looking like, I think that was just last year. I'll double check.
Okay.
The next break. There's no next break.
There's no. The next break is the end of the show, Chris.
You just Vancouver's a weird one to me. I felt it just on a personal note. Travis Green gets fired. They hire Bruce Boudreaux, and they win like their next 10. And you feel so bad for the guys when you, in this case, there's somebody I know, of course, and I think a lot of fans know and have an affection for in Travis. And he's just got to be thinking at the time, like, wow, wasn't me? Because they don't have much of a roster. They're okay.
Right.
They're an average roster. But then Boudreaux, within weeks of that great run to start, they fell apart again.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year, the GM called them out. So, man, Vancouver's tough to predict. They do have some high-end talent. They do have some speed. I'm not going to predict these 3 games.
Oh, come on, be a sport.
It has been so unpredictable this season. The only thing that when you say those 3 things, Calgary on the back end of 2, it's a good, tough team that kind of has a little bit of everything. Not that they've had the greatest of seasons. Strikes me as the one that they, on paper, would lose, but this year they've won.
Okay.
What do you got?
I think they're going to go 2-1. I think they're going to scout Bo Horvat tomorrow night, and then they're going to beat him, and then they'll split Edmonton and Calgary. You can pick which one they're going to win or lose. I think, we did this. We did predictions with a week with Edmonton involved too. And I think, I forget which one of us got it right, but I'm going to say they beat Edmonton and drop to Calgary on the second of back-to-back. So go a little more traditional that way. Yeah. So there you have it. It means nothing, but that's the prediction. But Ed, now it's time for the Hero of the Week. So why don't you cue that up, bud? Ladies and gentlemen, when you hear this song, that means it's time for the Hero of the Week, brought to you by the Blue Line Deli and Bagels half-price hero, which this week is the Blue Liner, featuring chicken cutlet, bacon, melted American cheese, Russian dressing, all on a toasted garlic hero. Wonderful, wonderful stuff over there at Blue Line Deli. Head on over, mention Hockey Night in New York to get half off the Blue Liner. So, Chris, who is your Hero of the Week?
I was looking up that Islanders-Vancouver game, but my Hero of the Week is the most excellent studio host for MSG Networks, and that's Shannon Hogan.
Hey, all right.
Shannon missed a game or two this year, and we're glad to see her back. She is reliable. She just brings a great spirit to not only the broadcast, but you feel like the team. She does her job. She'll point out the tough things too.
Yep.
But there's just this I wish I had it. She has this natural optimism.
I wish I had it too.
She seems like a very nice person. I met her once, actually. I bumped into her at the Rockville Center train station a couple of years ago.
There you go.
She could not have been nicer. We don't know each other at all. We're from different parts of the country. It also, I was a really big fan of hers. I remember last year, and I know these are supposed to be short answers, but
go off.
After Clark Gillies passed, now granted she knew Clark because Clark would come on the broadcast once in a while, and he's been around, but she's not somebody who came through Long Island and knows his team. And, and she was just so moving, and she was so moved talking about it, and it just it shows you kind of the heart that this person Shannon has, and just a very, very smooth, excellent broadcaster. She would never be caught babbling like I am now, trying to explain.
I just had a nap.
And so my Hero of the Week, but could be for several weeks, would be Shannon Hogan on MSG Networks.
I think that's a great pick. It's off the board, and I love it. And Shannon Hogan has done a great job ever since she came over to MSG, and I've never heard a fan say a bad thing about her. She seems to be across the board loved by the fan base. She does an excellent job, and even when she brings in AJ and everything like that, they all do a great job together. She's been a great part of the broadcast. Hopefully, she will be for a very long time. So, nice pick there, Chris.
Thank you. About every 3-4 weeks, I go off the board.
Nothing wrong with that. So now we'll get to mine, and I'm going back to the ice. And that's going to be Matt Barzal, because the guy's scoring goals.
He's a good hockey player.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's got 5 goals in his last 5 games. He's on a 3-game goal scoring streak. So he's finally starting to put the puck in the net, which is nice to see. Hopefully that continues. Hopefully he keeps shooting the puck. But look, he's this team's talent leader. You might be able to argue whether he's the offensive leader, because there's a guy named Brock Nelson who's playing point for point with him right now, and I think he's been having a great season as well. But Matt Barzal heating up on the score sheet as far as goals go, so he's my hero, and hopefully he keeps it up.
Great choice. No matter what a coach might say after a game or the next day, when you see the Islanders Twitter will show the 5-7 minutes of Lane talking to Kevin and Andrew and the gang, if you want to know what a coach thinks of a player, all you have to do is go to the time on ice on the game sheet. And, Matthew Barzal, he's a first-line player, and he's a star for the team, and so he's always going to play like at least 16, 17 minutes. But last night he played close to 22. I think it was 21 and change. Lane Lambert made a point of pointing that out to the writers after the game when they were asked about his play and playing with Tzidkikas. On the other hand, Ratu played 7 minutes on the fourth line. Zalo can't get in the game. This guy plays 11 minutes. So that's your answer. And as bad as last night was against Seattle, in one of his homecomings, a former Seattle Thunderbird, Barzal, he played his bag off. He was there. He gave his team everything that they could ask of him, and he's a great choice, and he's been scoring. Heck of a player.
There you go. Goal scorer Matt Barzell, my hero of the week. A great pick by Chris and Shannon Hogan. So remember, head over to the Blue Line Deli and Bagels flagship location in Huntington, mention Hockey Night in New York, and get half off the Blue Liner. So, Chris, I mean, we can dive into those guys we wanted to key on a little bit
a couple minutes left.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
And then questions brewing?
Yeah. So why don't we talk about these new faces in new places for the New York Islanders because of all these injuries that have been mounting lately. And we'll start with the guy you just mentioned, Aatu Räty. He's gotten into 4 games. He's been centering the fourth line. And I know a couple of my buddies were groaning a little bit. Oh, he's getting the Nino treatment. He's getting the Nino treatment. I was like, it's a little bit different this time. But just a bit.
Maybe.
Just a bit. But I think we like what we've seen out of him so far. Yes. Limited minutes, as you said. He's basically getting 8 to 9 minutes. He did have that one night where he had about 7 or so. But he's not getting in there. He's getting power play time, which you talk about trust. You put him on special teams. That's pretty trusting the coaching staff there. He's got that one goal, obviously, in his first game, which is a beauty. Nick brought it up before. And I think he was right in the money. That's a confident move to make. I mean, that's something he could have just fired that at the net as soon as he got it or tried to dish it off. But he saw a move. He made it. It was a beauty. And then the shot was even better. He puts it in the net. And hopefully that's a sign of things to come. And this is a guy who I'm pretty sure I said on this show I didn't even expect to see him this season at all. And here we are 4 games later. What have you seen out of him so far?
He's a playmaker. He has a different outlook on the ice. I like him on the power play. I'd like to see him even more on the power play. I think when you have a team that's been doing the same thing, that has for the most part the same personnel for so long, just to have somebody who just thinks the game a little bit different. It would be the same thing in basketball. It would be the same thing in some other sports where passing is key. It's just really important to have him out there. I'm usually the first person to say that these things tend to sort themselves out. Oh, who comes out of the lineup or who goes back when and then the next guy gets hurt. But it will be interesting because he can be sent down without having to go through waivers.
Right.
And the fact that he's only played 7 minutes last night and played. It's not unlike the Nino thing in its own way. It's not an unfair comparison. That was batshit crazy by Snow and Doug.
And that was purely money
Dougie
driven.
Wasn't even the coach. I was like, was it Cappy year? Oh,
that might have been Scott Gordon, maybe? Or am I going back too far? I don't remember. They all blend together.
I feel bad bringing it up and then not remembering who the coach was. But sorry,
we're human.
I give a lot of credit to Garth for a lot of things, including still 2/3 of the lineup that'll play tomorrow night.
Fair.
But that whole Nino thing, and Nino didn't help himself and his agent. So
right.
All that said, Räty, we just talked about him at our last show. He is a very good prospect. He's not an A+ prospect yet, but he brings something to the Islanders. I was thinking about this too. The Islanders have kind of been like a club in this Trotspurt era, right? Like it's been the same.
Did you say Trotspurt?
Trotspurt, yes.
I love that. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, got it.
Best I could do on short term.
Okay.
And Lou, of course, and Garth to a certain extent, right? And it's you have Romanoff on D, but he's not homegrown. He comes in a trade. Parisi comes in, but for the most part, right? We can name the guys. It's been this core. It's been this club that helped them get to the 7th game of a conference final, and that counts for a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So as fans, we all get excited about a homegrown guy getting in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we have a lot invested in this guy. You talk to any big Yankee fan, and it's the guys who came through the minors that they like Posada and Jeter and
Sure.
Rivera and those guys. So it's fun to watch. I don't, are we going to be disappointed? You hope that they continue to do the right things for him. To me, like, he deserves right now to play a little more. You're not going to get your answers about this guy now, and he's not going to hurt you playing on a better line. But I get it. He moves Cizikas up, and
we've definitely learned with this staff, the Trotspurt staff, is that they like to ease these guys along.
Yeah.
And maybe they know a little more than we do. Maybe they probably do.
They do.
And there's probably a reason for it, a good reason for it. I'm happy to see that he looks like he can belong. because again, I wasn't expecting to even see him get in there at all this year. So the fact that he's kind of acclimating himself to the game quicker than I expected is great already. I love that they slapped number 16 on his back. It'd be nice to have another good number 16 on this team. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And I think it's hopeful. And you hear Nick, he's like, I don't want to trade him. And he's probably a name
that's part of it too. It's because he's like our guy.
Right.
We drafted him. We believed in him.
Exactly. Right? But I think if we rewound to before the season started and you start talking, they need to pick up a winger, right? Who are they throwing in the trade? Oh, well, they got Ratu, they got a first. But now that he's hit the ice, we've seen what he can do. Now I think fans are a little more like, maybe we want to hang on to this guy.
True. And the other guy for tonight, I believe there's others we could talk about it, including Witherspoon. But I think the other guy I'd like to get your view on, and I've been thinking about him a little bit lately, because as recently again as I think last week, I don't want to say I wrote him off, but fashion, of course. And there's always this thing like, well, you said it very well, because I listened to the show today from last week.
Thanks, Chris.
Because I work at this, believe it or not. And
it shows.
You said he's come here to do what he was signed to do, and that was well put. He has. But I think what you also mean is like, but also let's not get silly, guys, fans. Right. In other words, right? Let's not get our hopes too up.
Right.
But I'd like to get your take on him now, another 4 games in.
Well, I probably said this last week too. Didn't know a damn thing about him before he came over, right? So he's been an absolute pleasant surprise. But again, within his skill set, again, I'm not saying he's going to be the next coming of the first line winger that they need, but he's 11 games in now, 2 goals, 2 assists. But outside of those 4 points that he put up, he's very noticeable on the ice, and that's winning battles on the boards, making room for guys like Matt Barzal when he was skating on the first line with those guys. He was very much involved in some of the goals that they put up, whether it was Barzal or Josh Bailey when he was with them. So I definitely think he's a guy who's earned a longer look. Now, I think it's obvious that the coaching staff is going to go back to their typical guys like Clutterbuck when he comes back, Palmieri when he comes back, and obviously the room for Fasching perhaps gets smaller. They've had Johnson on the ice. He's a guy I would absolutely play Fasching in front of now. I mean, maybe he becomes at the very least your 13th forward when everybody's healthy, and maybe that causes some decisions for Lou to make or not. But I think he's a guy I'd like to see stick with this team longer, because he's like tailor-made for that bottom 6. You know, like he's a guy who again, he fishes out pucks. He gets into the dirty areas, and I think he's a guy who can help this team. He reminds me of like the unsung heroes throughout the season, the Cizicases, the Martins, who all of a sudden really shine in the playoffs, right? When the game changes, he's that type of player where you look at the score sheet and all of a sudden those names are on it, because those are the lines that are usually scoring goals. Now, granted, the Stars score goals too, of course, right? They're going to lead the team, but that game is elevated. That part of the game is elevated in the playoffs. So if they can get that far, I wouldn't be upset with him still being with the roster if they get there.
So with each game, he shows something. And although, again, rightfully so, we can be, and I'll put this on myself, quick to write people like this off as depth guys, does his job. He'll go back,
same. Yeah.
And maybe we'll never hear from him again. He's on a 1-year contract.
Right.
But he's now shown enough, and yes, I did think about this while you were talking, and I was pretending to listen.
Of course.
That now he's becoming a little fascinating to me.
Oh, boy.
Because he's 27.
Mm-hmm.
His he played 38 games or so in the NHL before he came here.
Arizona, Buffalo.
Had 3 points. He's got 4 in 10 minutes, 11 minutes of eliminated. So it's kind of interesting in itself, right? And you might say, or I'll put this on myself, we got a couple minutes, right? Is that, like he couldn't crack Buffalo, who sucked.
Yeah.
And Arizona, who sucked. So why would we think he could come here? But in the history of this, there isn't often a rhyme or reason to this. And it made me think of another. So he's 27, and it made me think of another player.
Okay, I think I know where you're going with
this. At 27, not the same player.
Right.
But at 27, was acquired late in the season along with another fellow short guy. Fasching's not short.
No.
And went on from being a contributor on the 01-02 team, which we forget about,
talking about number
becoming
55.
a 50-point scorer, becoming a fucking 40 goal scorer.
Yeah, I knew it.
Okay, all right. I'm not saying Fashing's going to be a 40-goal scorer. The
Right,
point here,
right.
though, is that Blake was on Jason Blake. Love the guy, crazy as all hell. Here's this. I mean that in most of the best ways. And but what made him a little bit off center was that drive. Like I would tell people, okay, he might bother you a little bit. He might be a little all over the place. He might be a little too high energy after practices.
I'm pretty sure he didn't just piss off players on the opposing teams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what drove that guy. That guy had a motor, man, and he talk about self-made at 27.
Yeah.
So he's undrafted. He goes to L.A. Similar thing as Fashing, 27 years old. He played at North Dakota, Fashing at Minnesota.
I do not know that. I can't tell you.
I have it in front of me. I'm going to pretend not to look at my notes. But full 4 years, just like. And the point is that occasionally a player gets that opportunity and does emerge. I saw him being interviewed after the game, and he said, like, I'm learning, like, it isn't just about wanting to be happy to be here. I need to now take this. I liked what he said. I liked how he came off. Those are words. I'm not a scout. I can't. But there does seem to be something there. So I would just say if he winds up getting continued third line opportunities or top 3 line opportunities, he's a guy I'm rooting for. Like you said, we didn't know him. We're not
at
gonna
all.
pretend to know him.
Nope.
Right. And now you find yourself rooting for him. And I can't. It's not. Is he going to be Jason Blake? No. Can he be an everyday NHLer? Yes.
Yeah, and just to your point, and great comparison to Jason Blake, but to your point, it's a buddy of mine who I typically talk to about everything the Islanders do, and he's like, Fashing. Who the hell is Fashing? They call this guy up. And he starts naming guys that they called him up ahead of, right? Fast forward a couple days later, this Fashing guy's great. Extend him, sign him to a new contract.
What's his first name, buddy? Not you. I mean, you can say that to his friend. Now all of a sudden everybody knows this guy's name. So it's a great story. The thing on Blake, I know it kills you when I bring up like a Milbury trade, but
not at all.
The year before the revival year with the Coin and Yash, and it's funny. I almost forgot Blake was on that team.
Yeah,
he was very much a fourth liner, and then battled his way from there. At the end, toward the end of the year before, where we fucking sucked. That was the worst year. Van Beesbrook in goal.
Right.
Just a bad year. That's why we wound up with the first overall pick and took Ricky and all that stuff.
Right.
Milbury traded for 2 guys, and we were like, who are they? And he traded for Steve Martins.
Oh, wow.
And it was like 5'6". Maybe.
Wow.
And Jason
I remember that
Blake,
name.
And what he said in the interviews, what he said was, he was asked, "Are you doing this because the fans are booing you?" He says, "No, I'm doing it for me because I get why the fans are booing." He goes, "I just think if we're not going to be good, I want to see guys who pour their hearts out, and these guys will do that." And they both did it. Martins is a minor leaguer, I think, he, for the most part, and maybe played in Ottawa a little bit after. Blake then just little by little he refused to let anybody pigeonhole him as a depth guy, is too small, is not fast enough, is not tough enough. And I would say to Mr. Fashing that, there are role models out there for you at 27, and don't get into this thing of thinking you're a depth guy. Go in there, what you've been doing, and give it everything and aim higher. Don't just aim to be there, but aim higher.
Yeah, so like you said, sometimes it just takes the right opportunity with the right team in the right position, and anything can happen. I mean, that's why there's, 8 rounds of the draft, right? Because you just never know. But great stuff on him, and I don't want to breeze over Parker Wotherspoon. We'll mention him real quick because we still do have to get the questions brewing. But he's gotten to 4 games. He's a +2. He's been paired with Ryan Pulock most recently. He's basically leaped over Robin Salo in the depth for now.
Basically, he currently has leaped over.
Yeah, because he had a rough go himself, Salo, which is unfortunate. But Wotherspoon's looked pretty good. I think he's opened some eyes as well. I don't know what his long-term future is, but he has certainly put his time in. He's been with this organization for a very long time, playing in Bridgeport. Probably a guy that most of us had written off as far as ever cracking the squad and making a name for himself. Here he is. He's finally getting his opportunity. I think in 4 games he's looked all right.
I put so much into that Fashing Jason Blake rabbit hole that I I'm gonna watch a few more games of Parker Witherspoon, and next week I'll give you my defensive equivalent.
Well, at the very least, Parker, if you're obviously listening, we're paying attention.
Absolutely.
So we'll get you back on.
You do root for those guys.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like, you just like it ain't. Bridgeport is it's not fun in the AHL. It might be the second best hockey league. A lot of people tell you it's the second best hockey league in the world, but it's not fun. There's a lot of downtime.
Sure.
There's
riding buses.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. The area is okay. You know what I mean? Like there's a big there. Nobody's crying for. Okay?
Sure.
But there is a huge difference between the life, not just the salary, but the life of an NHLer versus an AHLer. And these guys, they're fighting to get out because it's the dream.
And once you get a taste,
and
you don't want to go back.
Every once in a while when you hear guys sent down and Salo, is his attitude that good or whatever? Like, I'm not defending it, but what I'm saying is it is a real test for you.
All right, well,
test. So for the guys who get out of it and make their case, all the respect in the world.
Yeah, and hopefully they continue to grow and help bring some success to this team. So, folks, it is now time for Questions Brewing. Ed, let's go.
It's time for Questions Brewing, brought to you by Lost Farmer Brewing Company.
Ed, Jay, how we doing over there, folks?
I was doing great, Sean. Before a little change of schedule.
You're still salty over that, huh? I thought maybe a little.
I was going to thank you for the shirt you got me on Christmas, but now all I could say is I hope you kept the receipt.
He's on camera,
wow.
Right?
So they can see him.
The Eds can see this.
Yeah, the Eds if they're watching.
So you haven't watched.
You got to figure. You got to figure they're checking in.
Listen to it.
You got to figure.
I did watch one a couple weeks ago.
You got to figure they're making sure that we're honoring our side of the bet. So
I am an Ed, so I guess I had a case.
Ed is wearing the Rangers Ed podcast. Maybe they need another Ed. If you're so bent out of shape over this, maybe they could use you over there.
You know what, Sean? Maybe.
All right, Ed, you're a good sport, buddy. What do you got for us?
Actually, our first question is directed right to you.
Oh wow!
From your pong partner last night, Nick from Offside Tavern.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Should you have won that game? He wants to know.
Yeah, we should have won, and it's probably my fault that we didn't. Nick was definitely pulling the weight. I was riding his coattails a little bit.
Needed a better wing.
It was a dramatic game. We went to like triple overtime, and Nick was heavily responsible for that. And I couldn't come up in the clutch there, and Nick, for that I apologize. But next time I got your back, bro. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on to Mel Armenia 22. Why won't the NHL give the Islanders a Winter Classic at Belmont?
I love that question
So
because they should. And I was just talking to a buddy of mine about this too, and it's just like it's such a joke. And Chris actually, made a comment about it earlier too. Like, I mean, really, Boston and Pittsburgh again, and basically there's about 7 teams that they rotate with these Winter Classics, right? And you got Boston, Pittsburgh, the Rangers, Philly, Detroit, Chicago, and somehow Buffalo has made it in there, I guess because it's a good market up there, right? Because that's what it's all about.
They had the first one. And
right.
I think they were playing it safe there with weather and
sure.
things like that.
That's
and
a good point.
They wanted that snow.
That's a good point.
The joke of it is that the NHL, they do a lot of good things, but this is not a national event. And I could tell you I didn't watch today. I have a pretty good handle on like the media who covers it. TNT's gonna, it's 4 hours of the guys talking about how great it is, right? And how great. But here's the problem: they were already there. I know because I got to cover it for Sports Business Journal. I spent a weekend in Boston, covered it. They played the Flyers. It's the first couple has a little bit of a national feel. I don't expect the TV ratings to be. There won't be a blip compared to most of the college football games, any of the reasonably big ones, especially the 2 semis. They're not going to approach any of the other major sports. And so what I would implore the NHL to do is like, okay, it's been a successful thing. It's been a nice thing. But now stop trying to chase that at some sort of major national event by having it at Fenway again.
Yeah.
But the game once. The beauty of the event is the picture, right?
Sure.
You get there. If you went to any of the Yankee Stadium games, they did the stadiums.
Yes.
You get there. Then the game starts, and it isn't so good after that because you can't see that much. The sound kind of dies in January. And so, unlike you, I think, unlike you, because I saw our tweet you had, I don't have a problem with the new teams kind of. So next year's games.
Oh, I don't care at the end of the day.
Next year's games in Seattle.
Yeah,
against
I just found it funny.
My reaction was, well, at least it's someplace different.
Yeah,
and it's also someplace a little unique. And Seattle, they have, and I could speak to this from Major League Soccer, where they get 60,000 people at Seattle Sounders games.
Yeah.
Like the Pacific Northwest, there's something cool about that. So, I'm okay with that. But at this point, just stop it with the Bostons and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, for crying out loud.
It's ridiculous.
And
I've been to two, and they've been nice. The
that's
other one
just-
was at the Big House in Michigan. It was cool to see 100,000 people there. Then the game starts, and it's just, the hockey isn't that good. It's slower.
Well, look,
make it a great national game. Don't try to kid yourselves that it's bigger than that.
Not that we didn't know this already, but it's clearly about the money and the market, right? And that's why it's the same teams rotating every time, because that's where they're going to get the most viewers. I mean, they research this stuff, and that's why we're seeing that. And it's not about being fair and getting every team into one, because again, the joke of it is, I mean, that's why I threw it out there on Twitter. It was just these two new teams that just came in the past couple of years, and they're already getting a Winter Classic when there's 20 other teams that haven't seen one yet, which is just hilarious to me.
I don't. I agree with you that of course it's about the money. It's a business. I don't think this game today is going to make a big enough.
I think the
difference
shine is
to their
worn
business.
off. I don't think anybody cares about it anymore.
The shine is worn off.
I'm definitely speaking for myself here.
Right, but what will be, it'll just have it in different places at this point. So if you're going to repeat it with the same teams and in Fenway again, it was already, it was like watching a bad sequel. Like what's the point? Is it just another game in Fenway Park?
I'll be generous and say maybe the first 5 years or so. Maybe that myself and maybe my hockey buddies would be, if it's local, hey, would you consider going? I did go to the first Fenway one, actually. But between that or just, hey, where are we watching the game? Maybe the first 5 years. And then I think I'm being generous there. And since then, I didn't even know it was today. I thought it was yesterday.
There was another weird thing, but I get why. There's a lot of competition. There's no way they were going up against NFL games. Right. They got to own January 2nd. A lot of people had off today. Most people even had off today. But I guess the ratings will be at, TNT, so I'm not too sure the ratings are going to be there's a difference. TNT does a nice job, but ESPN's going to get better ratings.
Well, they're the worldwide leader in sports.
So it just seems silly to me, but hey, what are you gonna do? The stadium series, the brilliance behind it, was that when they had those games where the Rangers played the Islanders and the Rangers played the Devils.
Yes,
that was like it's like telling an Islander, a former Islander, we'd like to induct you in the Islanders Hall of Fame.
Yep. And the Rangers were the road team.
You
for
ain't
both those
getting
games.
your number retired,
right?
Yeah, you're getting in other words, Islanders, Devils. You're getting the stadium series game. You ain't.
That's the best we can do.
Yeah, you're not playing in the Winter Classic.
100%.
God forbid.
Right, absolutely. All right, Ed, what do you got?
Next is a two-parter from MJ Beckman.
Okay.
Will there be a second season of Hockey Press Pass? Also, when not making Hockey Night in New York, which New York Islander podcast do you listen to most?
Wow. Well, the first question, I never heard of it, so I don't know. No, go ahead, Chris.
I'd like to, if the question is, will there be a second season someday? I hope so. I just wasn't able to get it started on this time for good reasons, for work reasons. And then this worked out perfectly to have the best Islander podcast around right in the town where I live with you guys in this beautiful studio. So that was a blessing. But I would like to do it again. It did nicely, and I've gotten some interest, and media people wanted to be on it. So I hope to have another season, but it's not going to be this season. And then as for the answer to the other question?
The other question, I didn't know there were any other Islander podcasts, Chris. I thought Hockey Night in New York was
That's
the
what
only
I
one.
thought. I thought it was a bizarre
Did
question.
they say you were listening to any other Islander podcasts or hockey podcasts?
If you listen to what it was directly Islanders.
Oh,
directly Islanders. I'm
Are there
They're
any
all
other?
good. They're all
there.
good.
There we go. They're all good. Listen to all of them. Yes. No, I don't want to lie to anybody, and that's fine. I'll be blunt. Like, It's so funny because I want all of you watching and listening to watch and listen to my podcast as much and as often as possible, please. But full throttle confession here, I don't listen to any other podcast, whether it's hockey, Islanders, or otherwise. This is it. This is my podcast world, and that's
I
it.
listen to some Islander podcasts, and just like I, listened back on our last show to hear how we did. I have listened to other Islander podcasts. Greg Picker's got an Islanders one that he does with Corey from the team. Andrew's got one. I'll always be partial to the Let There Be Lighthouse folks, main guy based out of St. Louis.
Yeah, I know Dan does a good job over there.
Yeah, they just,
and there are some exceptions.
They've been doing it for years. I come and go. Other people come and go. These guys have been at it for a long time, and so I got huge respect for them. So I will listen in once in a while. When I was coming back to do this with you, I wanted to see what else was out there. But you're right. There's only so much time. I guarantee you that the Lighthouse guys don't listen to our show. The Picker doesn't listen to
I wouldn't
our
expect
show.
that.
But they're all good.
And there's exceptions to what I said. I have listened to some of those shows. I just don't listen with any sort of regularity. Like I would be lying to you guys if I said, I listen to so-and-so religiously, check them out, But I know Dan Saraceni does a good job covering the team, and I know he has a very good following over Let There Be Lighthouse.
Talented guy, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's other ones out there too. Like you mentioned, there's Talking Isles. Andrew Gross has the Island Ice podcast with Newsday. And look.
The Isles Fix guys do a great job.
Yeah, look, I mean, if anything, Islander fans are spoiled in the sense that there's a ton of them out there, and you can listen to them all and pick your favorites, or listen to them all if you have the time. Yeah. But, it's great because that's how passionate this damn fan base is that you got clowns like me that are like, hey, there might be 4 or 5 people that want to hear what I have to say about the Islanders. You set the gear up and you give it a shot, and here we are. And I'm more than grateful to be able to say that you guys tune in every week and check us out, and it's very much appreciated. And but yeah, there's plenty of other ones out there that I'm sure do a great job.
And it says a lot that they all do well. I'll check the rankings from time to time.
Chris is very competitive.
Very competitive. I know, especially when we've had certain guests on or certain topics, they've done well. So we're very, very grateful to the fans for that as well.
Yes.
When it comes to the other shows, what gets my attention, and we talk about this sometimes with this one, is like maybe if the Picker show's got a particular guest of somebody I know, I want to hear what does he have to say, or somebody's talking about a particular topic, as that's what catches your attention.
There you have it. Ed, what do you got?
T-Boyle 13. Any update with Pellick and his return to the lineup?
Well, I mean, I think we can say exclusively that we do know when Pellick's. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, do we?
T-Boyle's a smart enough guy to have the internet, to know to follow Kevin and Andrew and Stefan Rosner, and that if anything, so
yes,
it's now gone on to the point where it's concerning that there is.
We're almost at a month.
Yeah, like it's another trip. He's not on this
right,
one, correct?
Right.
So that's sad. That means he's really battling with something. But no, we don't have an answer. And the fact that the team hasn't given one now, a couple weeks ago, for anybody paying attention, I had felt that there was some reason for hope based on some of the things that Lane said. Now that he's not on the trip and the team's not saying anything, my read on that is, that's a concern. All that said, when he comes back, the team's just going to tell you the day before.
Yeah, and Tom and the rest of you guys out there, I think you guys know by now that even the answers that they do give the beat writers aren't exactly 100% factual all the time, and maybe I don't want to say misleading, but they don't paint the whole picture. You have some guys that have been day to day for weeks now. You know what I mean? So but like Chris said, guys like Stefan, Andrew, Kevin Kurz, they're going to know before we do. But obviously, if that word is ever passed along, maybe when we have Stefan on next time, we'll give it another shot. But your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, we'll give T-Boyle another shot here. He also asks, once the team gets healthy, do you see Johnston on waivers?
On waivers? No, because he hasn't been placed on waivers yet, I don't think. I don't know if he was placed on waivers once since he's been with this team. Now, there could be an exception that I'm forgetting about, and I think we've talked about this in the show previous too. They love that guy. They love that guy in the locker room. even whether he steps on the ice or not, he's a guy who's been they've extended him to 2 separate, I think, 4-year contracts, right? So they had him there, I guess, for the option of if they feel like they need a tougher guy in the lineup, and I think they just like him in the locker room. So I think they're gonna waive the guys if and when they're healthy. They'll send the guys down to Bridgeport who are eligible first. And if a tough decision comes, like maybe a Hudson Fasching forcing his way onto the lineup, maybe that would be the first time you see Ross Johnson on waivers.
Very well said. They don't want to. I don't share that view, but I'm also not there, and I don't have those feelings. And I'm sure he's a terrific guy, and he's had his moments on the ice as well. It could be getting closer to the point where they will have to think about it, because other people are making a much, much stronger case.
Yeah.
You have up to 23 that you could use. If they could still keep a spot for him, they will. But if they have to, they'll put him on waivers. And I will say this with all complete respect, he will clear waivers.
Yeah, I think that's accurate as well.
He will clear waivers.
Yeah, I think so. Ed, if we got one more, we'll do one more. We'll sneak one in. If
Sure,
not,
we'll sneak one in from Mike 4652. Can Lou really be that blind as to see what the team needs? Care to speculate on his reluctance to deal?
Oh, geez.
Well, the easy it's not a well. I guess it is a defense. The easy answer is there hasn't been a major trade made since the offseason. There were a couple of minor moves made the day of the holiday freeze because some teams needed some bodies and made it some switches. But trades usually aren't made at this early in the season. But now the clock will start to tick. Now the holiday freeze is over in a day or so, and he will. Then he's got 2 months to do it. He's got about 6-7 weeks to do something, and I suspect he will. He's not. I mean, I've been critical of him, but it's not like he's not sitting there and doesn't know what
he knows
lack.
Exactly what they need. It's just, and look, you never want to hear this answer because it's the one you usually get. But again, it takes 2 to tango. There has to be a team that has somebody available, and then you have to iron out the details. You have to have what they want. You have to be willing to give up what they want. And you hear all the time that a lot of these deals are worked at, right? They don't. It's not like Lou picks up the phone and says, "Hey, I'll give you this or that." All right, sounds good. Click. It takes time, sometimes days, weeks, months, whatever it is, and you know.
And I'm sure you meant this, but the salary cap, it's like a huge part of this.
Yeah. So
most teams are up against it. Like for every Arizona, a couple others, most teams, I believe it's something like 18 of them at least, are like right up against the cap. It is.
Yeah.
So trades have to be even. So they are not easy to make in this league.
Yeah, and that's not to say that Lou gets a full pass with those things in mind, but you know, you have to just consider all these different factors. It's not just a matter of snapping your fingers and a deal is done. And I'm sure he knows what he needs. The question is whether he has what he is, if he's willing to give up what he has to get what he needs, and whether there's a willing partner. But I do think he's going to make at least one significant deal before the trade deadline. Who or what that's going to be remains to be seen.
And I know most of our fans, our listeners know this, but I will just point it out. If somebody wants to say, no shit, that's fine. But the reason, I do think there's actually plenty of fans out there who don't, for good reason, right? They don't think of these things or don't know them. But the reason why a lot of these trades are made as late as possible is that's less you have to pay the guy, less he counts on your cap.
Right.
So that's why not only is Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders not made a trade, but for the most part, nobody's made a significant trade where they've taken on any salary so far.
Right.
But that will happen in probably starting around February 1 until the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So, folks, I want to thank you guys so much for throwing in the questions for Questions Brewing. If we didn't get to it, we apologize. Obviously, we're up against the clock here, and we'll try to get you in next week. But, folks, that's going to wrap it up. So, Ed, please hit that music. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY here on Twitch at Floored Media in Rockville Center. Thanks a lot for watching along. And, of course, a big thanks to you guys listening later on your favorite podcast providers. A huge, huge thanks to Nick Costa of Offside Tavern. Can't wait to see that place up and running again. Great stuff from him. And, of course, a huge thanks to our wonderful sponsors, starting with Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington. That is their flagship store. Check out BlueLineDeli.com to get an idea of their menu and whatnot. Also, Lost Farmer Brewing Company, 63A 2nd Street in Mineola. Check out lostfarmerbrewing.com so you can see what they got going on their menu too. And a big thanks to Main Street Board Game Cafe, located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Go to Main ST, that's right, Main ST, boardgamecafe.com to check them out as well. And Chris, where can we find you on the Twitter?
At Chris Botta NHL.
You can find myself at Shawnee Hockey. You can follow the show at Hockey Night NY on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the TikTok. Please rate, review, and subscribe if you like what we're doing here. Jay, I like the dance moves up there, buddy.
I'm cringing back there.
You're keeping it together. And also a big thanks to our pals at the Rangers Ed podcast, Coach Ed, Little Ed. Thanks for the really crappy merchandise. They're going to get burned in the barrel once the show is over. But great stuff from them. And, of course, thanks to you guys. My name is Sean Cuthbert for Chris Botta. We've been Hockey Night in New York. We will see you next week.